Is debt beating you down? You need discipline. You need the Debt Ninja. If you've been caught in a financial trap and need to be set free, then you need the Debt Ninja. Want to stop those harassing collection calls, start saving thousands in interest and fees, and get out of debt fast? Then you need to call the Debt Ninja. The Debt Ninja will find the best companies across the country that will help you consolidate all your bills into one easy payment, reduce your payments by 30 to 50%, and get you out of debt fast. If you have unsecured debt of $10,000 or more, such as credit cards, loans, or medical bills, call the Debt Ninja for a free 15-minute consultation.
Call 800-826-1246. 800-826-1246. That's 800-826-1246. Call today.
The Debt Ninja.
Individuals and businesses with tax problems, listen carefully. Do you feel like you're losing control over your finances? If you owe over $10,000 in back taxes or have unfiled tax returns, we can help you take back control. The IRS is the largest and most aggressive collection agency in the world, and they can seize your bank account, garnish your paycheck, close your business, and file criminal charges. Take control of your tax problems now by calling the experts at Tax Mediation Services and take advantage of the Fresh Start program and new laws that may allow us to negotiate a settlement for the lowest amount possible. Our team of tax attorneys and enrolled agents can stop collections and get you protected so you can take control of your financial future. Tax Mediation Services is accredited by the Better Business Bureau. Call now for a free case review and a price protection guaranteed quote.
Call Tax Mediation Services now at 800-610-9050. That's 800-610-9050. 800-610-9050.
Writers are prone to becoming so attached to our characters and stories that we struggle to see why a passage may not be working. It takes another set of eyes to help us nurture our writing into full maturity. At Black Wolf Editorial Services, we strive to enable writers to develop and grow, shaping stories into masterpieces that can stand the test of time. Editing services are provided for all genres and all age categories. Services range from critiques of the short story through to the line edits of the full-length novel and copy editing for those preparing for publication. We also offer assistance on generating a writer's bio for your websites, as well as help with those book blurbs and promotional material. We won't abandon you to the masses. We want to celebrate with you in your successes. Black Wolf Editorial Services, nurturing your writing into maturity. For a full list of services and prices, visit us at blackwolfeditorial.com.
This is Slickery Trigger for Rebel Road Tactical. With proper care and feeding, your pistol will be ready when you need it. There to save your life. Shouldn't your gear be that good? Whether you need a holster for comfortable everyday carry or a tough-as-nails holster for your next training course, Rebel Road Tactical has what you need. Check us out on the web at rebelroadtactical.com.
You're listening to the Spark Radio Network, internet radio like you've never heard before. Innovation, creativity, and imagination are all said to begin with a spark. So fasten your seatbelt and take the ride of your life and listen for the spark.
You are listening to KLRN Radio, where liberty and reason still reign.
My name is Jessie. I'm a United States Special Forces widow. This gives me a unique perspective on the world around us. If you're willing to listen, I'll tell you how I see it, and I won't pull any punches. This is my POV, which stands for Point of View.
All right, how's everybody doing out there tonight? It is good to be back on the air. Yes, I'm back. Sorry, I just had to take an extended holiday weekend. Why? Sorry, guys. That's personal. And it's need to know. And you don't. Love you guys, but you don't get to know everything. I love you, but gotta keep a few things to myself. I will let you in on a couple things, though, before I get on with my show. I want you to pull out your phone. Come on. Go on, do it. December 17th, if you're here in the United States. And if you're not, you'll have to do the calculations. 4 p.m. Star Wars versus Star Trek. Yes. Yes, 2-hour live special. Nope, not kidding. So, and it's going to feature our very own Dr. Judy L. Moore, who is the host of Conversations in Science. Oh, yes. She is amazing. In fact, this woman is so organized. I'm not going to tell you what it's about, but she has already recorded her Christmas special. Well, Christmas Eve special in her case. Oh, yeah. I will give you a tiny hint. Let me see if I can find it. Real quick. Gotta find it real fast.
Merry Christmas.
That's about as big of a hint as you're gonna get. And if you can't figure out that, I don't want I don't want to hear it. Really? If you can't figure out that one, I just don't want to hear it. Nope.
Ho, ho, ho! Merry Christmas!
Yes, that's the best clue I've got for what Dr. Moore is talking about. Okay? And it's very much a child-friendly-ish show. Alright. Now, on to my show. You know I've always got something for you. Well, except for the days I was off. But I did actually do a live Thanksgiving Day show, which nobody did that. Nobody. Just crazy little old me. And I encourage you to check it out. Because I played very, very few commercials. I don't even remember if I played any. Alright. I just remembered I've got one more thing to do. So give me just 1 second. I'm out of practice, guys. Yeah, you take a couple days off and you'd be amazed what you forget to do. I have to kick what we call the server. So, otherwise, if you're over on KLRNRadio.com, you won't hear me. And that's not a good thing. No, it's not. All right. Just about got that done. While I'm doing this, some of the topics for tonight. Oh, there is a host. Yes, I have a Mosul update. I have some stuff on South Korea. Our old favorite topic, the South China Sea, which was all over the board for some time, is back. And we've also got of course, the death of Fidel Castro. Yes, Fidel is dead. I even went to the official Cuban news site and looked at the report myself. I'm sorry, I didn't believe it. I was happy. But it took me a cool minute or two to actually buy it. So right. Trying to get all my ducks in a row, and they don't want to play ball tonight. That server is being a curmudgeon. So, hey Rick, if you happen to be listening live, but I kind of doubt you are, but if you happen to be, do me a favor. Oh, it looks like the server's decided to play ball. It looks like it has decided to play ball. Finally, the server got its act together. Alrighty. Now, you know what this means. Show prep. Now, tonight when I sign off, I will be signing out with taps, as I do have a DoD casualty. One family didn't have much to be thankful for this year. Alright. We are going to go for our Mosul update, as I haven't heard of a single news source covering this topic. I really haven't, at least not very in-depthly. Fighting between Iraqi and Daesh forces has cut water supplies across a large section of Mosul, affecting 40% of the residents in the city, where poorer families are already struggling to feed themselves. Water was cut to 650,000 people when a pipeline was hit during fighting between Daesh and the Iraqi government. And they were trying to take the northern Iraq, take back the city. They are facing Al-Abar, member of Mosul's Nineveh Provincial Council, said that we're facing a humanitarian catastrophe because there are still 1.5 million people in the city of Mosul. Barely more than a third of the 200,000 basic services such as water, electricity, health, and food are non-existent. Barely more than one-third of the 200,000 displaced that the UN had expected in the first few weeks of Mosul offensive have fled their homes so far. The lack of clean drinking water could make it difficult for residents to remain. There is no water. We drink water from the well. It's very salty and we have to boil it before we drink it, said Arif, a 45-year-old woman, in the Kandra neighborhood on Tuesday. The battle for Mosul has already raged for 6 weeks. Yes, we have been doing this update for approximately 6 weeks. Iraqi commanders said around 40% of the eastern half of Mosul has been retaken from Daesh since the huge offensive began on October 17th. The forces have told civilians to stay at home in order to avoid massive displacement from the city, which was believed to have a population of 1 million plus before the operation started. And according to Hoda Abdel Hamid from eastern Mosul, the city is becoming one big urban battlefield. The large presence of civilians is slowing the military operation down. But among those who managed to get out of the cities, there's a feeling that this offensive should have started much earlier. Aid workers say a full siege is developing and fear that the longer the conflict drags on, the more civilians will suffer. Key informants are telling us that poor families are struggling to put sufficient food on their tables. This is very worrying. In a worst case, we envision that families who are already in trouble in Mosul will find themselves in even more acute need. The longer it takes to liberate Mosul, the harder conditions become for families. The capture of Mosul, Daesh's last major urban stronghold in Iraq, is seen as crucial towards dismantling the caliphate, which the group declared in Mosul, Iraq, in 2014. A spokesman of the coalition, U.S. Air Force Colonel John Dorian, said there was a sense of urgency to capture the city without giving a target time frame. A fleeing 7-year-old child was among dozens more civilians allegedly executed by Daesh in Mosul in recent weeks, according to the UN. Since the battle to retake Mosul began, the UN Human Rights Office has reported hundreds of alleged execution-style killings by Daesh. The most recent allegations included November 22nd killing of a 7-year-old child who was running towards Iraqi security forces. In a November 25th incident, 27 civilians were reportedly shot dead in Mosul's northern Munhasdin Park, possibly for leaking information to the Iraqi security forces. On Tuesday, Iraqi forces assaulted villages far south of Mosul in the Nineveh province, attempting to clear rural areas of Daesh fighters who stayed behind to hinder their advance. Now, all the news out of Mosul is not bad. No, it's actually not. Sorry, I bumped my microphone. On the edge of Mosul, shoppers savor market life again. A month ago, it was the front line of Iraq's battle to retake Mosul, but now the village of Gojali echoes with shouts of chicken, tomatoes, cigarettes. A lively market has sprung up here. So, like I said, all of the news out of Mosul is not bad. And it's on the eastern edge of Mosul, just a few kilometers away. Iraqi forces are fighting street by street with Daesh. So, yes, the civilians are happy to actually have freedom again, have a life again. There have been new reports of Iraqi snipers taking out mostly the Peshmerga, but they will also go after Iraqi. So, alright, the UN Rights Wing warns that amid the battle for Mosul, Daesh forcing civilians squarely into harm's way. As the Iraq military intensifies its operation to wrest Mosul from terrorists, the Office of the United Nations High Commissioner for Human Rights today warned that it continues to receive reports of serious breaches of international human rights and humanitarian law by Daesh in and around the war-torn city. We are deeply worried about the fate of hundreds of people who have reportedly been being abducted by Daesh and moved to unknown locations. Daesh is also continuing to abduct and forcibly move civilians and to kill those it suspects of leaking information to the Iraqi security forces. Daesh has been installing rocket launchers and placing snipers on rooftops of civilian homes, while also threatening to kill those who refuse to cooperate. These families are effectively being used as human shields, placed squarely in harm's way, caught between Daesh and Iraqi security force fire responding to rocket and sniper attacks. Just 2 weeks ago, Daesh shot and killed 12 civilians in Bakir for allegedly refusing to help launch rockets from the rooftop of their houses. Another 27 civilians in Munhasdin Park, northern Mosul. Life in Mosul is grim. What can I say? However, it's clear that as soon as they get a chance to get out of it, they're happy. They are quite the happy group. They are more than happy to spring up a market and sell goods and buy goods and have stuff to buy and have stuff to sell, and I think that's a good sign. I really do. Alright. My, oh my, we are almost at the bottom of the hour, but I'm going to see if I can cover this one more story before we get there. This is the South China Sea. Taiwan held rescue drills on Tuesday off the coast of its sole outpost in the Spratly Islands of the South China Sea. But the biggest claimant in the disputed area, Beijing, aka China, kept uncharacteristically quiet. China and self-governed Taiwan seldom see eye to eye, but responding to Taipei's latest assertion of sovereignty over its Itu Aba, Beijing has avoided the harsh language it often directs at other claimants to the busy waterway. China, Taiwan, Philippines, Vietnam, Malaysia, and Brunei claim parts or all of the energy-rich South China Sea, through which trillions, not millions, trillions, T-R-I, trillions, of dollars in trade pass annually. Taiwan and China both suffered setbacks to their claims in July when an international tribunal ruled that China's historic boundary, the so-called 9-dash line, was invalid and said Itu Aba was a rock rather than a self-sustaining island entitled to a 200-kilometer economic zone. Experts say Beijing is largely content for Taipei to push its claims on Itu Aba, the largest natural feature in the Spratlys, because China views Taiwan as a breakaway province to be taken back by force one day if necessary. So while Chinese ships have confronted Malaysian, Philippine, and Vietnamese vessels in the area, Taiwan's regular journeys to and from the lonely outcrop have gone unimpeded. Asked about drills on the Itu Aba and whether Taiwan had an obligation to respect Chinese sovereignty there, Chinese Foreign Minister underscored its desire for a unified approach. The Nansha Islands, including Taiping Island, are inseparable parts of China. Spokesman Ging Shaon said in a daily briefing in Beijing, using China's term for the Spratlys and Itu Aba. Chinese people on both sides of the Taiwan Strait have an obligation to jointly protect this ancestral property. Drills such as Tuesday's show Taiwan's determination to become an important player in the South China, said Ian Story, a South China Sea scholar at Singaporean ICS Yusof Ishak Institute, adding that Taiwan officials and experts have told him of frustration of being diplomatically marginalized in the South China Sea. Taiwan also treads a fine line between annoying friendly Southeast Asian neighbors and the United States and its sole political ally and arms supplier by being a proxy for China's sovereign interests, despite the risks of angering Beijing. It's a tricky position that means they are broadly supportive of Beijing. They want to be seen as pushing their own Chinese claims rather than Beijing's, even though they are essentially the same. Philippine President Duterte has planned to declare a maritime sanctuary and no fishing zone at a lagoon within the disputed Scarborough Shoal, more of the South China Sea. The idea is an interesting one and offers a potential solution to international disputes of the South China Sea territory, but only if it is jointly agreed and enforced by all sides in the dispute. Duterte's action would be unilateral and thus potentially represent a big loss for the Philippines, whose fishermen would be barred from the sanctuary. It is not yet clear whether China, the other main claimant, would reciprocate by instructing its own fishing fleet to steer clear of the lagoon. Duterte disclosed the idea to Chinese President Xi Jinping when they met on November 19th on the sidelines of an Asia-Pacific Economic Cooperation Summit in Peru. Why he chose to go it alone rather than negotiate a joint plan on the sanctuary with Beijing remains a mystery. After all, Duterte recently forged a rapprochement with China and is now on good terms with its leaders. Scarborough Shoal is better known to the Filipinos as Pantag, an area they have fished for generations. That practice, however, ended in 2012 when China seized the shoal before the Chinese Coast Guard relented last month and after Filipino fishermen's access as a gesture, amid warmer ties following Duterte's Beijing trip. Duterte wants to preserve the shoal as a spawning ground and envisions the ban extending to Chinese boats. However, Filipino fishermen have voiced opposition to the plan, complaining it would eradicate a major source of their income and at the same time hand jurisdiction to the Chinese Coast Guard. So, as there has been for years, there is more dispute. Yes, more dispute over the South China Sea. Now, we have reached the bottom of the hour. I did sneak that last story in. Well, not the last one, but the last one before we pay those bills.
You can lay it down if you wanna. You can run away if you wanna. You can pretend that this is totally okay if you wanna. You can play it dead if you wanna. Forget what they said if you wanna. Turn your back on the country needing you right now, but I don't wanna.
The following message contains a special offer for listeners of this station. Are you a man over 40? Are you constantly looking for the nearest bathroom? Do you wake up multiple times a night to use the bathroom? Right now, Perfect Prostate is sending out free bottles of their groundbreaking new formula to listeners of this station. Perfect Prostate Formula was developed by medical doctor Mitchell Fleischer, and its ingredients have been clinically studied to reduce your frequent nighttime bathroom visits and promote healthy urine flow. Right now, preferred customers get their first bottle of Perfect Prostate absolutely free. There's nothing to lose. Perfect Prostate is guaranteed to reduce that constant urge to use the bathroom, especially at night, and promote healthy urine flow. Don't wait. Call now for your free bottle. Just pay shipping and processing. Dial 1-800-675-0251. That's 1-800-675-0251. Supplies are limited. One free bottle per household. Call now. Dial 1-800-675-0251. That's 1-800-675-0251.
Individuals and businesses with tax problems, listen carefully. Do you feel like you're losing control over your finances? If you owe over $10,000 in back taxes or have unfiled tax returns, we can help you take back control. The IRS is the largest and most aggressive collection agency in the world, and they can seize your bank account, garnish your paycheck, close your business, and file criminal charges. Take control of your tax problems now by calling the experts at Tax Mediation Services and take advantage of the Fresh Start program and new laws that may allow us to negotiate a settlement for the lowest amount possible. Our team of tax attorneys and enrolled agents can stop collections and get you protected so you can take control of your financial future. Tax Mediation Services is accredited by the Better Business Bureau. Call now for a free case review and a price protection guaranteed quote.
Call Tax Mediation Services now at 800-610-9050. That's 800-610-9050. 800-610-9050.
All writers are prone to becoming so attached to our characters and stories that we struggle to see why a passage may not be working. It takes another set of eyes to help us nurture our writing to full maturity. At Black Wolf Editorial Services, we strive to enable writers to develop and grow, shaping stories into masterpieces that can stand the test of time. Editing services are provided for all genres and all age categories. Services range from critiques of the short story through to the line edits of the full-length novel and copy editing for those preparing for publication. We also offer assistance on generating a writer's bio for your websites, as well as help with those book blurbs and promotional material. We won't abandon you to the masses. We want to celebrate with you in your successes. Black Wolf Editorial Services, nurturing your writing into maturity. For a full list of services and prices, visit us at blackwolfeditorial.com.
KLRN Radio has advertising rates available. We have rates to fit almost any budget. Contact us at advertising@klrnradio.com.
This is Slickery Trigger for Rebel Road Tactical. With proper care and feeding, your pistol will be ready when you need it, there to save your life. Shouldn't your gear be that good? Whether you need a holster for comfortable everyday carry or a tough-as-nails holster for your next training course, Rebel Road Tactical has what you need. Check us out on the web at rebelroadtactical.com.
You are listening to KLRN Radio, where liberty and reason still reign.
You can lay down if you wanna. You can run away if you wanna. You can pretend that this is totally okay if you wanna. You can play dead if you wanna. Forget what they said if you wanna. Turn your back on the country needing you right now.
All right. Thank y'all for hanging in there with me while they took that brief commercial break. Always got to pay those bills. Oh, yeah. All right. I had an audio clip. Oops. I forgot to play. About Mosul in the first half of the show. So, beg my forgiveness. And let's get with it. And this is from today's Department of Defense press briefing. Oh, and they use the term CR at the beginning. That stands for Continuing Resolution.
Now, one task that an extended CR would make more difficult is the fight against ISIL, which would be deeply unfortunate because we continue to achieve results in that fight. In fact, this morning the Secretary received an update from some of his commanders leading our effort against ISIL. They reported to him that in Mosul over the last week, Iraqi security forces have made careful but steady progress in tightening the noose around the city and pressuring ISIL on multiple fronts. CTS continues to lead the way from the east of the city. As was expected, and as we and our Iraqi partners have said many times, this is not an easy fight, but it is a fight ISIL is losing. Iraqi forces during this campaign have exhibited extraordinary care in preventing civilian casualties, and we continue to work closely with Prime Minister Abadi and Iraqi commanders, remain closely aligned with the Iraqis in the execution of the campaign plan.
All right, now I also have a little clip. I don't have an accompanying story, but I feel it's important to play the clip. This is from the same press conference about Raqqa, Syria. It's a real brief one. I couldn't find too much news on it, so I didn't want to bring it up in whole, but we are going to take a quick listen to the clip.
Meanwhile, over in Syria, the SDF is consolidating the gains it has made in the first phase of its drive towards Raqqa. and the SDF continues its isolation of ISIL's so-called capital. The coalition continues to provide critical support to our partner forces in Syria and in Iraq, especially through the year as we maintain maximum pressure on ISIL.
SDF, Syrian Defense Force, i.e. moderate Syrian rebels, whatever you want to call them. All right. I don't think you could have missed some of the news I'm going to cover, but we're going to cover it anyway because I found it pretty interesting. Actually, I've got one story that definitely you probably missed. But the rest of them, there's no way. Has anybody not heard Fidel Castro is dead? Oh yeah, Fidel Castro is dead. Let's take a listen.
In 1959, Castro, along with Ernesto Che Guevara, overthrew the government of Fulgencio Batista, turning the country into a communist nation for the following 5 decades. Human rights groups say Castro's regime was responsible for imprisoning, torturing, and killing dissidents. A student at the time, Eduardo Ochoa, says he was imprisoned protesting for democracy. He believes Castro's death is hope for a better future.
We always believe that the people of Cuba are the ones that have to break the chains of oppression and freely themselves and finally have human rights and dignity.
All right, I've got the official press release from the Cuban news agency. Havana, Cuba, November 26, ACN. That's the abbreviation for the Cuban news agency. Don't ask. Cuban Revolution leader Fidel Castro Ruiz died this Friday, November 25th at 10:29 p.m. in Havana at age 90. Cuban President Raul Castro took the airwaves around midnight to announce the passing of the commander of the revolution in a short statement. Raul explained that as per Fidel's request, his remains will be cremated in the early hours of today and added that a commission to organize the funeral will provide the Cuban people with detailed information about the ceremonies that will take place throughout Cuba. Alright. Find the other Cuban story I wanted to cover. Where is it? Yeah, my news prep may be together, but it's not organized. Come on. Is it ever? Is it ever all that organized? I think half of you tune in to see what I'm going to foul up today. I seriously think that sometimes. But I have fun doing the show. Maybe one of these days I'll have a research assistant and my news prep will actually be organized and I won't know what to do with myself. Alright. Where is the article I am looking for? Okay, just because Castro's dead doesn't mean a whole lot has changed in Cuba. A Cuban graffiti artist whose flamboyant expressions of opposition to the communist regime have landed him in trouble remains in jail in Cuba days after he posted signs and drawings about former leader Fidel Castro's death. Hello, Mr. Frog. The artist, Danielo Maldonado, also chanted in the streets about Castro and his brother Raul, Cuba's president, according to his girlfriend, Alexandria Martinez. Martinez, who spoke with Maldonado from her home in Miami before he was taken by police, said that the artist had chanted, Abajo Fidel, Abajo Raul, down with Fidel, down with Raul. And if I'm mispronouncing that, I'm sorry. I said I love you, I'm telling everyone, Martinez said. Martina, a Cuban-American, said that Maldonado had been trying to get permission from the Cuban government to visit Miami this week to participate in an art event there. Topic of the session he was going to participate in was artistic freedom. Maldonado, who is known as El Sexto, He's active on social media, spent 10 months in jail about a year ago after he posted a photo of two pigs with Fidel written on one and Raul written on the other. The Human Rights Foundation said on its Facebook page that the Cuban government had charged Maldonado in 2015 with criminal defamation for linking the Castro brothers with the pigs, which the artist had prepared for a performance of George Orwell's Animal Farm. Martino said his mother has tried to visit Maldonado, who was moved to a notorious jail to hold political prisoners, but has been denied the opportunity by the Cuban government officials. Cuban American National Foundation, based in Miami, said that Maldonado continues in jail and has not been charged. Martino said his mother, Victoria Machado Gonzalez, said she saw security forces beat and drag her son as they took him to the police station. El Sexto has become a prominent target of the Cuban regime because of his graffiti art. Because his graffiti art is one of the elite's most feared methods of protest. It exposes their true nature, said Thor Halvorsen, president of the Human Rights Foundation, in a statement on the group's Facebook page. El Sexto's art unmasks the tyranny in ways that white papers, press accounts cannot. Now that Castro will receive a pompous farewell, the regime will take measures to silence all voices for democracy and drown out all calls for reform. So, just because Fidel is dead, unfortunately, doesn't mean anything has changed yet. One more story. Cuba's allies and Washington's top diplomat in Havana joined a sprawling throng of Cubans at a rally on Tuesday to commemorate Fidel Castro, the man who built a communist state on the doorstep of the United States. For many, and especially in Latin America and Africa, Castro was a symbol of resistance to imperialism, having ousted a U.S.-backed dictator, quote-unquote, and a champion of the poor. Others, including many in the large Cuban exile community in Miami, have condemned him as a tyrant who jailed opponents and ruined the economy through socialism. Chants of Viva Fidel resounded as tens of thousands massed in Havana's Revolution Square on Tuesday evening to pay homage to Castro. United will never be the people, rang another. Raul Castro embraced ideological ally visiting Venezuela President Nicolas Maduro as the ceremony got underway. To weigh the success or failure of Cuba's economic model without factoring in the more than 50-year-long quote-unquote criminal U.S. embargo is pure hypocrisy, Ecuadorian President Rafael Correa said in a tribute to Fidel Castro. The White House announced on Tuesday Obama would not send a presidential delegation. Instead, the United States will be represented by Jeffrey D. Laurentis, chief diplomat at the U.S. Embassy in Havana, and Ben Rhodes, an Obama aide who represented the United States in 18 months of secret talks that led to détente. The rapprochement is now threatened by U.S. President-elect Donald Trump, who takes office on January 20th and who has spoken of resuming Washington's hardline unless the government makes political changes. The kind of pressure the Castro brothers always fiercely resisted. De Laurentiis was head of the U.S. interest section in Havana when it was upgraded to an embassy on July 15th and has been nominated by Obama to be named ambassador. Many leaders of Latin Americas, including Maduro and Bolivian President Evo Morales, flew in to attend the ceremony in the same space where Castro once delivered rousing marathon speeches. African leaders include Zimbabwe's Robert Mugabe and South African President Jacob Zuma, who paid Castro a tribute of his own. The late Nelson Mandela repeatedly thanked Castro for his efforts in helping overturn apartheid in South Africa. I have to say, I'm no Castro fan. He has imprisoned too many, tortured many more, and executed still more. And I've got one more article on the subject. The writer was born in Cuba. And they usually try and stay as objective as possible when she's asked about Cuba, but news of Castro's death on Friday was an emotional bombshell. When it happened, it felt anticlimactic. So what if he's dead? He still won. He died at 90 after destroying Cuba and leaving in place a framework for his repressive policies. However, as I watched television news coverage of the celebrations in Miami, people leaving their homes in the middle of the night with Cuban flags, pots and pans, and other noisemakers, I wanted to be there too. Finally, it was just not just another rumor. Although I've been in Chicago for 23 years, it felt time to rejoice. Felt like a time to rejoice no matter what. So I turned to Twitter. Then I heard a report about Castro's positive impact on Cuba, and my celebratory tweets turned angry. The larger-than-life character who has haunted my life since I could speak was not just a tyrant. Maria Murciano believes he was her grandfather's murderer. Manolo Castro, no relation to Fidel, was shot to death outside a small theater in Havana in 1948 when her mother was a 9-year-old. At the time, my grandfather was Cuba's sports minister, but he had made a name for himself as president of the University of Havana's Student Federation. In the 1940s, Havana was rife with violence, led by revolutionary organizations vying for political advantage. Gunmen associated with action groups loitered at the corners of buildings, looking to settle vendettas or just oust the competition. It was hard to tell who was a revolutionary and who was a terrorist. A young, ambitious law student, Fidel Castro, desperately wanted to join a student protest movement, following my grandfather's steps as Student Federation president, according to the book Guerrilla Prince, The Untold Story of Fidel Castro by George Annie Geyer. Castro put a bullet through a protester's lung in order to ingratiate himself and gain my grandfather's political support. Manolo Castro refused, and Fidel Castro began a very open public relations campaign to get my grandfather's name on a hit list with the deadliest gang in Havana. So, yes, Castro built free schools and hospitals with much help from his Soviet sponsors, but he ruled with repression and hypocrisy. Castro executed thousands by firing squad and sentenced thousands to jail and hard labor. Committees for the defense of the revolution and bloc leaders have kept people in fear of being spied on and called out for being anti-Castro. Yes, there's a high literacy rate, but government-sponsored censorship prevents people from reading whatever they want. World-class doctors in Cuba? Maybe. But citizens have poor access to health care and life-saving medicine. Some argue that the U.S. trade embargo is the reason life has been so hard in Cuba. The true reason is not the trade embargo, but an oppressive government that decries capitalist enterprise and controls every aspect of financial betterment. Any veneration of Fidel Castro sickens me. Cuban Americans may be celebrating, but we know his death will not end the suffering in Cuba. The irony is that the man who spent a lifetime spewing hatred toward America and capitalism, who left 11 million people much poorer than they should be in the name of his bankrupt ideology, died on Black Friday. I have found solace in knowing my 78-year-old mother lived to see the day her father's murderer left this earth, even if it came too late. My brother woke her up in the middle of the night to break the news of Castro's death. She whispered, "He died," and then turned over and went back to sleep. Maureen Murciano is a Chicago-based TV and radio personality. So I felt it was important to share that. We are almost out of time. Let me see. Alright, South Korea. We're going to speed through this as I do have a round of taps to play tonight. Alright, South Korea's President Park Geun-hye. Following protests by thousands of people over 5 weeks in South Korea, the scandal hit President Park Geun-hye said Tuesday she will step down from office once Parliament puts a plan for safe transfer of power in place. Park, who has about 15 months left in office, found herself in the middle of a political influence scandal after her close aide and competent Cho Soon-sil was arrested for allegedly meddling in government affairs and exercising influence over the president. Cho has been accused of pressuring companies into giving a combined 77.4 billion won, that's 65.5 million, to two nonprofits that were under her control. I will leave matters about my fate, including the shortening of my presidential term, to be decided by the National Assembly, Park said in a live address to the nation. If the ruling opposition parties discuss and come up with a plan to reduce the confusion in state affairs and to ensure a safe transfer of governments, I will resign from the presidential position under that schedule and by process stated in law. The opposition, however, has referred to the announcement as an attempt to delay impeachment, after prosecutors said they believed the president conspired in the criminal activities of Cho, her so-called spiritual advisor. But who exactly is Cho Soon-sil? After Park's father and former military dictator Park Chung-hee was assassinated in 1979, Choi's father, Cho Tae-min, leader of a religious cult, reportedly acted as a mentor for Park, establishing a strong relation between the two families. Other than being Park's close friend, Cho was also the president's spiritual advisor and her former husband. Cho Yeon-hoi served as an aide to Park when she was a lawmaker. Choi, who has also been indicted by South Korean prosecutors, rarely made public appearances and was relatively unknown before the political scandal. This is the biggest scandal to hit South Korea in recent times. Earlier this month, prosecutors charged two of Park's former aides in connection with the wide-ranging scandal. The president's former senior advisor for policy, An Jan-byum, was facing charge of abuse of power and attempted extortion. Ex-private secretary Ji Hong-seong was arrested earlier this month on suspicion of leaking confidential documents to Cho. Chae Young-taek, a pop music video director in the country, has been charged with abuse of power, coercion, and embezzlement, and will be tried for allegedly using his ties to the president's confidant to win major projects. Last week, Lee Young-ro, chief prosecutor of the Seoul Central District Prosecutor's Office, said evidence showed the president was involved as a conspirator in a considerable part of the criminal activities by suspects Choi Sun-sil, An Jung-byum, Jang Hoo-sung, referring to the two former presidential aides. However, because the president's impunity from prosecution stated in Article 84 of the Constitution, we cannot indict the president. The Special Investigation Headquarters will continue to press for an investigation of the president based on this judgment. Despite her presidential immunity, Park is liable to be investigated. While Park's term ends in January 2018, she's facing immense pressure for the public to resign or face impeachment. The parliamentary session ends on December 9th, and there is expected to be a vote on a bill of impeachment. The likelihood of impeachment to go through is high, as there are 172 opposition and independent lawmakers who want Park removed. In addition to this number, they will need 28 of the 128 lawmakers from Park's conservative Sonori party to break ranks. While some of them have already said they support the impeachment, 30 to 40 of Park's lawmakers are reportedly set to change sides. If the National Assembly votes to impeach Park, Prime Minister Hwang Ko-an, an unelected official, will serve as the acting president until the Constitutional Court takes its decision on ratifying the impeachment vote, a process that could take up to 6 months. Hwang is deeply unpopular with the masses. If Park steps down, she'll be the first South Korean leader to resign since the country's first president, Sang-ri, quit and fled to Hawaii during a popular uprising in 1960. On the other hand, if the president is impeached, she will be second to former President Roh Moo-hyun, who was impeached in 2004 after allegations of calling on voters to support his party during parliamentary elections, a violation of his neutrality. Alright. For those of you who want to find me out there on the social media stratosphere, you can find me on Twitter at Jessie's POV. You can find me on Facebook at Facebook/Jessie's POV. Or you can shoot me an email right here at the station, Jessie's POV at KLRNRadio.com. Now, time for my last story. There was one family that has very little to be thankful for. The Department of Defense announced today the death of a sailor who was supporting Operation Inherent Resolve. Senior Chief Petty Officer Scott C. Dayton of Woodbridge, Virginia, died November 24th in northern Syria, of wounds sustained in an improvised explosive device blast. He was assigned to the Explosive Ordnance Disposal Mobile Unit 2, based out of Virginia Beach, Virginia.